Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter. Yo, leave that donation for that fried rice and chicken wings and consider becoming a member. It's only a couple dollars a month. The hunt is on, and the black fighter is the prey. Turki al-Sheikh, the secret society. The question is, are they trying to bring down the brothers? Shit sound funny, right? But let me tell you something. May not be all that funny. When you're a fighter who's a boxer, and depends on fighting in a standard ring to fully execute your game plan and to go out and try to get a decision victory or box early in the fight, have the opponent wear down, and then around, I say, midway through the fight, around 6, 7, start to really pick it up, maybe look to close the show and get a knockout TKO. But the thing is, right, this 18 by 18 foot ring that Turki al-Sheikh has instituted for the Shiraz Berlanga fight card, and Shakur Stevenson is on there. I want to just say this, that boxing styles, right, aren't determined by race. But I think when we really think about slick boxers, movers, fighters who float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, you don't really think about Caleb Plant. You don't really think about Joe Calzaghe. When you think about that, a black fighter, for most people, comes to mind. Some people will say first thing comes to their mind is Lomachenko. But historically, it's the black fighter that comes to mind. It's the black fighter who needs a standard size or a larger size ring to be able to get in the ring, be slick, be flashy, box, move, not get hit. But I do want to say this, that boxing styles, I think they're shaped more by just how a fighter trains. I think their background, and the skill set that they hone. Okay? Now, a lot of black fighters, and there's been a lot of attention drawn to this lately, especially when Turki al-Sheikh came out and said something about there needs to be a black champion. I mean, I don't want to misquote him, but something along the lines of boxing is in a better space when there's black champions. Some shit like that. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with him. I'm just telling you what he says, what he said. And I'm kind of paraphrasing. I could be off beam, but he says something along those lines. Some agreed, some disagreed. But black fighters have been known for their technical mastery, while other black fighters have thrived as aggressive brawlers. Now, when you think of great boxers, right, the one guy who should come to everyone's mind right now is Floyd Mayweather. Defensive genius, slick movement, precise counterpunching, right? Floyd Mayweather. Larger the ring, better for Floyd. Sugar Ray Leonard, another one of those guys, great boxer. Fast, highly skilled technician, blended offense and defense brilliantly. Sugar Ray Leonard was a beast. And Sugar Ray Leonard, the bigger the ring, the better, but he would stand there and scrap with you. You know what I'm saying? And then you had a guy like Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker was just one of those fighters, man. And this is the thing, some people have never even seen him fight. After you watch this video, just watch highlights of Pernell Whitaker. That will motivate you to sit down and watch some of his full-length fights. So you get a real good idea of why people speak so highly about Pernell Whitaker. A master of defense, master of footwork, and for the most part, it was impossible to hit cleanly. So when you think about that, great boxers and fighters, black fighters, if they go into 18 by 18 foot ring, they're going to have to evolve themselves. And when they have to evolve themselves, that means that they're going to have to be able to still box like a Mayweather, still box and scrap like a Sugar Ray Leonard, still box and scrap and not get hit like a Pernell Whitaker. But they're also going to have to incorporate a little bit of brawling and the style of a Joe Frazier. So they're going to have to be able to do everything. Relentless pressure, in addition to being a skilled technician. Devastating shots, going to have to work on their power, sitting on their power shots. Jermell Charlo did a great job with Derrick James. Going from just being a guy who was a boxer slash, perceived coochie cooler to being a knockout artist. And they're going to have to make it a nightmare for their opponents. Because right now, if they're just sitting back trying to be skilled technicians in an 18 by 8 foot ring, that they're the ones who are going to be dealing with a nightmare. So they have to evolve their styles, okay? Then you got a guy, I don't know if I call him a brawler, but he sure as hell wasn't no float like a butterfly, sting like a bee boxer. Deontay Wilder, a bit wild, you know what I'm saying? A bit unorthodox. Could be described more as a free swinger. But Brawler's one of those guys, man, powerful fighter who relied on sheer force to get the knockout. And then a guy like Aaron Pryor. Some people don't even know who Aaron Pryor is. You go check out Aaron Pryor. Non-stop aggression and volume punching, overwhelming opponents. So these fighters like Shakur Stevenson, there's some others, I'm going to get to that, right? They show us in spots that they can do some of the things we're talking about, but they're not really that great at it. What they're great at is really moving around the ring, picking their spots and opportunities to let their hands go, and then move more, which some people call running. I describe Shakur Stevenson as a boxer runner because that's what he'll do. He'll box. He may take a half step back. He may use angles. But if the person he's fighting can bang and they start pressuring him, he will run to get out of a bad position or get out of a trap. Then he'll reset and get back to work. But he has no problem, high stepping it up out the corner. You will hear the same sound like in the cartoons. Pew! You'll hear that shit. Pew! So when the pew pew starts, that means that Shakur Stevenson is running. But what I do want to say is at the end of the day, boxing styles depend, I think, a lot like with mentorship, experience, and personal strategy. Not necessarily racial background, but I would say who today can really take these fighters who are known for being skilled technicians, right? Who can take them and make them into a fighter who can now brawl when necessary, be aggressive when necessary, improve their power, hold their ground, and to make sure that in that 18 by 18 foot ring, that when they box, they discourage and dismantle their opponent, or if the opponent pressures them, closes the gap, they make their opponent regret it. What trainers out there can really take fighters, primarily black fighters, and do that? I'll be honest with you, I don't know. And I'll be honest with you, I'll say this. I just think Floyd Mayweather was just a different beast. Sugar Ray Leonard and them guys, but I'm going to talk about Floyd, man, because Floyd was a guy. You can put that man in a 16, you can put him in a 10 by 10 ring. It didn't matter. Floyd was going to sit there in that pocket, shoulder roll, catch his shots, and return fire. See, people haven't watched all of Floyd's fights. Floyd was a fighter. Small ring, large ring. Floyd was so talented, man, that Floyd would dismantle anybody. And that's what today's fighters, they need to become like that. Like that pretty boy Floyd. They have to. If not, I'm telling you, you're going to see them start losing fights. And all the way back to the amateur programs, these fighters are going to have to learn how they really need to be a master in all facets of boxing. They got to be able to wear all hats. Boxer, puncher, counter puncher, brawler, free swinger. They get a KO artist. They're gonna have to be able to do everything. If not, the 18 by 18 foot ring is gonna kill them. You know what I'm saying? The smaller the ring, it clearly favors, and this is no my opinion, right? It clearly favors a pressure fighter, man. When you get these boxers, especially like the black boxers, because it's mostly the black boxers, they rely a lot on movement. They rely a lot on distance, man. And when you're in more of a confined space, it's just harder to stay elusive, harder to reset, harder to control the range. You know, so again, it goes back to things I was saying earlier. It forces guys to be into exchanges, man, and they're not gonna like that. Now, the whole thing about Crawford and Canelo, man, I have a feeling Turkey Al-Sheik's gonna make that an 18 by 18 foot ring. We know Crawford can fight. He can fight in the pocket. He can catch. He can counter. Crawford can do everything. But I'm gonna say this: he ain't Floyd Mayweather. But he's a bad boy. But he ain't Floyd Mayweather. Some people think Crawford is better than Floyd. Some people think prime for prime, Crawford would beat Floyd. I don't think so. I think Floyd would dismantle, dissect, and whip Crawford's ass. I'm not saying the fight won't be competitive. I just think Floyd his brain works too fast. His hands are fast. He hit hard. I think Terence Crawford would have his hands full. But again, we're talking about two GOATs going at it. So when I think about that, Crawford and Canelo, and the weight classes, the small ring, I think Crawford can do a lot of the things we talked about just now. It's just for how long can he do it before he starts swallowing water? Because Turkey Al-Sheikh may force an 18 by 18 foot ring on him. So Crawford may be in a bad spot because it's not a matter of him evolving his style as some of these other guys. But Crawford is he's up there in age. Now, if Crawford was in his 20s, an 18 by 18 foot ring probably wouldn't matter. But the man's almost 40 years old. I think an 18 by 18 foot ring, it matters. And I think it plays to a disadvantage for Terence Crawford. But when you talk about fighters like, Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney, that shit is going to be a nightmare for them. Shakur Stevenson already came out here and said, doesn't matter what Turkey Al-Sheikh wants, I'm running. Those were his words. He said, I'm running. But you guys are going to see some along the lines of a brilliant performance. He's going to get the victory. But he said Shakur Stevenson said he's going to run. That's crazy. But you can understand what he's saying because you put him in an 18 by 18 foot ring. Shakur gets uncomfortable. He's going to run because his entire style is built around controlling space, avoiding unnecessary engagements. So instead of him standing there engaging, because he's going to have to, right? Or he's going to be in a position where he's either going to have to engage or he's going to have to run. Shakur Stevenson already told us, I'm going to run. And I'm not saying that should be fun. That's what he said. I'm going to run in that ring. Look, I don't know what to say, but what I will say is the shift to smaller rings means that a lot of these fighters who are still amateurs or just turning pro or already currently pro and active, they need to evolve their styles to make sure that if they're forced into exchanges, that they're prepared for that. They need to do it. Inside fighting skills, a lot of fighters don't have that. And even if you're like on a scale of 1 to 10, your inside fighting skills are like a 5. Your first 10 fights, you may look really spectacular because of the opponent in front of you. But what happens when you get in there with a pressure fighter whose skill set as far as being a pressure fighter and making you uncomfortable is a 9, and your inside fighting game is a 5, and his inside fighting game is a 9, you're going to have problems, especially in small ring. So that's why I just think these fighters, especially the black fighters who rely a lot on, utilizing all the real estate in the ring and fighting in spots and, outlanding their opponents and making sure they're accurate and, convincingly winning rounds, but not necessarily you know, destroying or hurting their opponent. It's just winning on points like an amateur system. Just outlanding you, moving around, nothing really hurting you, but just touching up enough to win round by round. So those guys are going to be in trouble, man. You see these defensive specialists who rely on movement. I'm just telling you, they're just not going to have a lot of space to work with, man. And that just makes me think about how effective can a guy like Devin Haney be? How effective can Shakir be going into this weekend? You know, how effective can Crawford be against Canelo? How effective, and Hamza Shiraz is not black, but there's a boxer. How effective can Caleb Plant be fighting on the inside against an elite guy? How effective can a guy like Canelo, who benefits from an 18-by-18 ring against Crawford, how effective can he be against David Benavidez? Crazy. The elusive footwork could help those guys. When we think about today's boxers, like a guy like Crawford, let me tell you something. He can mix elusive footwork with a strong inside game. And you would think that he should be able to thrive. Any boxer today, as they evolve, or if they already have this and just haven't shown it, if they can mix elusive footwork with a strong inside game, they can probably do very well in this new 18-by-18 foot ring environment, because now the pressure fighter's coming to them. They can make them miss, they can make them pay. And if they're on the inside, they can win the exchanges. And Crawford is known for thriving in all those environments. He's just going up against a much bigger challenge. And I just think it's going to make it really interesting. But when you think about fighters, right, outside of Crawford who have elusive footwork, just across different weight classes, and this has nothing to do with race, what I'm talking about right now. Some guys who could thrive in an 18-by-18 foot ring, I think Shakir Stevenson would be okay, maybe early. Slick movement. He's a defensive wizard. But I just think it's the opponent in front of him that's going to result in a very bad outcome for Shakir. Lomachenko's another one. He's retired now, but those angles and pivots, he used to control fights. You know, you put him in a foam in a matchbox, but Lomachenko will come out victorious. Terrence Crawford's another one. Switch hitting ability, lateral movement, man, make it hard to pin him down. But you put him in an 18-by-18 ring with a guy like Canelo, who's on you and throwing bombs. At some point, you'll see a fighter start to wilt, and that's what we could see happening with Shakir and Zepeda, Crawford and Canelo. Then Jaron Ennis. I don't know what they're going to do, but if Jaron Ennis debuts at 154 against Murtazaliev in an 18-by-18 foot ring, that fast footwork and explosive counter is going to have to help him evade pressure and avoid getting knocked out. I just think that's just all bad. I like Jaron Ennis, but Murtazaliev, a Tim Tszyu, a Virgil Ortiz, Jaron Ennis likes to fight, but I just think as the fight goes on, the longer he has a fight on the inside, man, I just think, if he can't really damage his opponent, I think even a great Jaron Ennis could have some problems, man, you know. But even though I know he likes to fight like that, but I'm just saying, that ain't really his style. He mixes it up. But in an 18-by-18 foot ring, you got to do more fighting than boxing and moving. Now, one guy in particular who I think would really struggle, and I think this is what happened to him, when Demetrius Andrade fought David Benavidez. Demetrius Andrade is one of those guys with that awkward movement, just wholly awkward style, and his skills, defensive skills, frustrate his opponents. But when he fought David Benavidez, as my understanding, that was an 18-by-18. I could be wrong. But what I will tell you is Demetrius Andrade for sure will struggle in a ring where he can't really utilize his elusive footwork and creating that distance he needs to frustrate his opponents and get to work. Demetrius Andrade is a very, very good example. And then Usyk and Tyson Fury, you know what I'm saying? More ring that Usyk has, the better. The more ring Tyson Fury has, the better. You know, lateral movement, footwork angles, defensive movements. It's just even better for him, man. But the bottom line is, it goes back to what I was saying with fighters, especially the black fighters. They got to evolve. They got to understand quick pivots. You got to understand sharp counters and smart positioning, and when to clinch. You're gonna be fighting on the inside, man. You got to know how to clinch. There's an art to clinching. Clinching is part of boxing. So you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Because if not, your ass will get trapped. And it's going to be all bad. Anyway, when I think about some of these smaller guys, I think about Roman Chocolito. I'm trying to see him in an 18 by 18 foot ring. But him in his prime, exceptional movements and angles. Nobody messing with him. That guy was just amazing to watch. Sonny Edwards was another guy, man. You know, slick footwork, defensive mastery. Naoya Inoue and Stephen Fulton right now. Those are guys who just use lateral movement, really quick footwork, man. Power as well from Inoue, very underrated. But you put Inoue in a small ring. Good luck to you, because Inoue gonna get you. But again, he has the footwork too, to where even if he has someone else in there who can hit, he's very underrated in his defense and his footwork and those other intangibles. Fulton's another slick boxer, great footwork. But again, you saw when he fought Inoue. Once that pressure fighter starts to get to you and touch you, and they have power, you see the guy who's a really good boxer start to unravel. But anyway, we'll see what happens, because to me, when I talk about a boxer's chance against a pressure fighter in a smaller ring, I really think it's about them trying to adjust. But I'm gonna tell you, man, that the ring size will impact the matchup. You know what I'm saying? Now you're talking about less space to maneuver. A 20 by 20 foot ring, man, versus an 18 by 18. Boxer can circle out, reset, control the distance better in that 20 by 20. And the 18 by 18, they can't do it. They're going to end up in a goddamn gunfight, and they ain't going to like it. When they're trying to roll out, man, and exit, they're not going to be able to, because all of those outlets are going to be, minimized. So it's all bad. And then that high engagement rate that I keep talking about, I'm just telling you, that's all bad for black boxers who don't want to engage that often, but they want to pick their spots, pick their moments, not do too much, like Terrence Crawford would say, and just go on to win the fight. Let me tell you, pressure fighters like Fundora Chisora thrive in close quarters. Fundora would love it. Chisora for sure would love it. He ain't got to chase you around. It's over. But you take a Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney, not so good for them, because now they no longer have the room to operate. So you guys, if you're up on boxing, you can easily take a look at this and be like, yeah, you know which fighters will benefit and which ones wouldn't. And then more traps than just being cut off, man. You get these guys who like to cut their ring off and put pressure. It's just going to make it easier for them to cut off the movement of the boxer, which more times than not, it's the black fighter. And now you're going to see guys in the corners along the ropes. And when they're looking to exit left or right, it just may not have those opportunities, so they're going to have to fight their way out. You know what I'm saying? I remember when I was boxing, I fought southpaw. I get backed up into a corner, I throw the straight left and right hook and roll out to my right, you know what I'm saying? But that shit would have to be fast. It was like bing, bing, and roll out. So they're going to have to know how to do those things instinctively, man. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, they're gonna find themselves doing more inside fighting, and then they're going to have to become comfortable with trading on the inside. If not, they're going to have problems, because it's going to become the fight shit's going to become harder and harder, man. And then the last thing that I want to talk about, just reduce defensive zone safety, man. In larger rings, boxers can take a breather by moving away. This is one thing that you see happen a lot. Move away, kind of paw with the jab, do little things just to kind of freeze up the opponent, but the whole time they're doing that to buy themselves time to think, to breathe, you know. In a smaller ring, you can't do that. The opponent's constantly going to be in your face, you know what I'm saying? So it's going to be crazy. Anyway, I truly believe in a 20 by 20 ring. I think boxers might have a 60 to 70% chance of winning against a pressure fighter, depending on the skill level. And I think in an 18 by 18 ring, the chance drops around 40 to 50%, unless the boxer has elite inside fighting ability. And not many of these fighters have elite inside boxing capabilities, at least to be able to do that over 12 rounds or even 10 or 8. They can do it in spots, but when things get uncomfortable, they clinch or they exit. They utilize an outlet to get away from the pressure. But if they can't do that, like I said, they may be able to hang in there for a few rounds, but at some point in time, they're going to break. And the pressure fighter is going to either get a knockout or get a victory, a decision win. Anyway, y'all keep cool. The black fighters, they got to figure it out. Got to figure it out. As a matter of fact, any fighter who's a slick boxer who relies on movement and utilizes all the real estate in the ring. But the black fighters especially, you know, if they're trying to get to Saudi or if they're already fighting on the Saudi circuit, and if Turki Al-Sheikh says, hey, anyone fighting over here on a Riyadh season card, or if I'm paying you, because the thing is this, for those who are saying, oh, man, Turki Al-Sheikh, he doesn't control boxing. Who is he? F him. We don't need him. He's the one putting the money up. So if he's paying for something, he wants to get what he's paying for. Wouldn't you? Plus, we know when Turkey's in the house, every day is Thanksgiving. So if I'm paying for something, I want to get what I'm paying for. It's pretty simple. But I do think Dana White had something to do with that goddamn recommendation to go to an 18 by 18 foot ring. So we're going to see these fighters evolve. You had Jack Johnson, Sugar Ray Robinson, and now you got Terrence Crawford. And you got all these other fighters in between, where you're seeing the black fighters' boxing style evolve, get better. And it looks like with this 18 by 18 foot ring, it's going to cause any fighter who's a boxer, irregardless of race, right? It's going to force them to have to become an expert. And inside fighting, being a boxer, force them to be expert and being a pressure fighter, being a knockout artist, setting traps, cutting the ring off, counterpunching. It's going to force them to be an expert in all areas. If not, depending on their opponent, they'll be okay. But I think you'll start to see some hit or miss type performances. And that's what can happen when you got a fighter who relies on a standard 20 by 20 foot ring that they've trained in their whole life. And now they're being told you're not going to have that. And they got to get in this ring now and try to execute the game plan and strategy that they've trained for in a 20 by 20 ring, and now do it in 18 by 18. And I think this is horrible, especially for those fighters right now. I should say this for another video, but could you imagine fighters like Shakur Stevenson, right? Let's just talk about him, who's been training and sparring and doing everything in a 20 by 20. Now he's got to go and they got to get a ring that's 18 by 18, or, block off a certain portion of the ring to make it 18 by 18. And he got training there now. You tell me the secret society ain't full effect to get certain fighters to win and certain fighters to lose. But I'm not saying this is an attack on the black man. I'm just saying more black fighters need that whole ring to box and move, you know what I'm saying? Because Hamza Shiraz is Turki Al-Sheikh's boy, and he ain't black. And so Edgar Berlanga, this new change that they're implementing, that benefits Edgar Berlanga. So it's all crazy. Anyway, keep cool. There's so many great fighters from all around the world, all races. But I don't think there's any secret that the American black fighter is known for floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. And they utilize every square inch of that ring to make sure they can go on and be successful in a boxing match. And when that's taken away from them, I truly believe they're going to be at a disadvantage. And that's for all boxers, but in particular, majority of them guys we see boxing like that are the black fighters. Y'all keep cool, leave your comments. Y'all in the breeze.